The latest update on Husan Longstreet, Julian Lewis, Braden Jacobs, Dontrell Glover, whatever I have, I'm throwing it out here on the Friday Flex. Welcome to the 5 Star Flex. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes D Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes D Scoop. And you know the tagline. First, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And this is where being a 5 star isn't just a ranking, it's a mentality. So you all know the 5 Star Flex. I usually interview guys, and I've got some of the most popular and highly ranked players in the country coming on. Sometimes 2-3 times a week, telling me about their recruitment. You get an in-depth kind of look at inside their recruitment and what they're thinking and who they are as a recruit. Well, this ain't none of that. It's totally different. I came from the scoop department. I came from finding out what was going on in the city of Atlanta. So I thought it would only be right that if I gave, instead of doing Duke Scoops, we're going to go with the Friday Flex, almost like a 411 on things that I'm hearing. I'm talking to a lot of guys on the record and off the record, and I still got my plugs in Atlanta. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to just kind of let guys know what I'm hearing. All right, let's start off with Husan Longstreet. The Sentinel Caller out of California had a great visit to Auburn recently. He's been seen as a Texas A&M lean for a while. And he commits on April the 14th. I think this commitment is one of the biggest dominoes to fall in this class. Why? Because I think with the heavy involvement of Auburn, and this is going to kind of play into Julian Lewis as well, and also KJ Lacey, I'm of the opinion that Auburn ends up with one of the three: Longstreet, Lewis, or KJ Lacey from Saraland. Reason being, now let's start with Longstreet. Had a great visit. I do think that he is not afraid to go cross country. When you look at what Auburn has and the potential and what they present to a quarterback going forward, Auburn has a weapon in Cam Coleman that outside of Jeremiah Smith is probably the premier freshman wide receiver in the country. He's a game changer. You saw him in the spring game. It looks different. And I know for a fact quarterbacks are salivating at the thought of playing with him and definitely throwing him the ball for the next 2 years, because as long as he stays healthy, after this freshman year, the 25 guys will have 2 years with him because he's an early entrant for sure, as long as he stays healthy. But before we put the carriage before the horse, you got to start to figure out what quarterback could possibly be there. So with Longstreet, I think that if he commits to Texas A&M this weekend or any other school, I think you start to see the pressure that Auburn kind of turns up a little bit on Julian Lewis. There is real interest between Julian Lewis and Auburn. I know a lot of people think that, oh, well, that's pie in the sky. Yes, he's committed to Southern Cal. And yes, Georgia's going to always be a factor there. But I think that there is something about being close to home, the cachet of wide receivers that Auburn brought in last year's class, including Cam Coleman. You still haven't even seen Perry Thompson, who is pretty much a freak of nature. We saw that in high school. Then you have guys like Malcolm Simmons and a Bryce Kane on the inside. That class was probably the best class in the nation last year. Not even to mention the work they're doing this year. So when you think about what Auburn would be able to pull off, I think that Julian Lewis is 1,000% in the realm of possibility. But I 1,000% think that if Husan Longstreet commits to Auburn, that's Auburn's out for Julian Lewis. And I think we'll see. That's one of the biggest dominoes to fall. Right now, if I had to bet my money on it, I would probably lean towards Longstreet to Texas A&M, and Auburn probably getting either Julian Lewis or KJ Lacey. That's just me. I do think that the interest is real with both parties, and there may be another prospect that pops up on the radar as things start to develop. But right now, quarterback wise, I have under pretty good authority that those are the three that Auburn is most locked in on, and it'll start this weekend. Let's go to another kind of Auburn recruitment, but not quite. Um, Let's go with Braden Jacobs of Buford, the son of Brandon Jacobs, former Auburn running back. He's an Auburn legacy. But this isn't about Auburn right here. This is about Clemson and Auburn's rival, Alabama. You have 1000% got to watch Alabama with Braden Jacobs. I spoke to the family not too long ago. It sounds like that if Braden does decide to take that OV to Alabama, then there's a real possibility that things could change. Now, if he doesn't take that OV to Alabama, then you kind of, I kind of feel like Braden will stick with Clemson throughout the cycle. But as it stands now, Alabama is making a very, very serious push for Braden Jacobs. And if he does take that official visit, then you could see some real motion go on between the Crimson Tide and Braden Jacobs. Now, if Auburn were to re-enter the competition and kind of press for Braden Jacobs, as you've seen them do later in some recruitments, I think they can make it interesting with his history with Auburn. But I think right now, the biggest competitor for Clemson is going to be Alabama. And I wouldn't be surprised to see James Franklin and Penn State continue to push to get Braden Jacobs in the College Station. All right, let's go with wide receiver Taz Williams. Got some really good intel on Taz this week. A lot of people seem to think that he's a Michigan lock. Right now, I think that Texas A&M is doing a heck of a job recruiting Taz Williams, the four-star wide receiver, originally from the Pittsburgh area. Ohio State's still involved. I am hearing that you could see Miami and Auburn also get involved with Taz Williams, but at this point, I think it's Michigan and Texas A&M. And if I had to bet my money right now, I probably would say Texas A&M has a slight lead over Michigan, but you'll see how the visits shake out. But right now, those will probably be the two schools to look out for with wide receiver Taz Williams. Let's talk about Dontrell Glover of Langston Hughes, the interior offensive lineman. Florida State. He came on the show, said Florida State was definitely his leader earlier in the year. But right now, Georgia just made a serious push with Dontrell Glover. And I think that if they continue to push and if they push for his commitment, I would venture to say that Georgia and Dontrell Glover would be a combination, a marriage, so to speak. And I think that he would commit if they continue to push along those lines. He has a garage full of Georgia gear. Grew up a Georgia fan. I don't think that Georgia pushed as hard as he would have liked them to earlier in his recruitment. But now they're turning up the heat a little bit. They like his size. He's developing his body at a rate where a lot of that baby fat is gone. He's starting to lean. He's still very massive, compact, maybe 6'2.5", 6'3". But on the interior offensive line, when you look at how his weight is, the absolute power that comes out of his hips, his striking ability, and that mean, nasty streak that he does have, I think that he's a perfect fit for Georgia. So I think Florida State and Coach Atkins, the offensive line coach, they're going to continue to push. But right now, I see Dontrell Glover as a Georgia and Florida State battle. Let's keep rolling. Let's talk about Juan Gaston of Westlake High School. Auburn has really come on strong, and I think that you still got Florida that's hanging around. They got him on campus not too long ago, so you also got to think about Florida State when it comes to Juan Gaston. I'm not sure, but what I will say is this: Juan Gaston is open, and that originally it seemed if it would only be South Carolina, Georgia, or Tennessee. Well, I will say this: Florida, Florida State, and Auburn have all made huge advances in Juan Gaston's recruitment, so that's one to watch. And I think let's go Martez Carter Jr., another guy, number one player in Kentucky. He came on the show a little earlier. At the time, I think it was more of an Oregon, Kentucky, Clemson battle. Right now, it seems like it's an Auburn, Kentucky, potentially Ole Miss battle. I think that Auburn is pretty strong. I'm hearing he's really high on their board. I'm also hearing that Ole Miss is making strides, and Kentucky is fighting to keep them home. But right now, I would say it's an Auburn-Kentucky battle. I think that Oregon still has a remote chance, but I don't think it's as strong as it was previously. And I think Clemson is still lurking, but I really think right now you would have to go Auburn, Kentucky for Martez Carter Jr. And I think we'll end it with, let's go Micah DeBose. Micah DeBose, the large offensive lineman out of Viger High School in Mobile. I think right now Florida has really made a push for Micah. They have a really good plan. They're impressing the family. So Florida is a dark horse in this recruitment. I know a lot of times uh, Florida's being overlooked in some of these recruitments, but you cannot discount what the Gators have been doing. They're really doing a lot of good work. I think Ohio State is still involved. I think Auburn is still kind of lurking a little bit, but it hasn't had the traction that it once had in that recruitment. But I think as it stands right now, I just want to put this out there. Florida is really doing a lot to get in these guys' recruitments. And I think that, and my dad has an old saying, keep getting close, keep getting close. And the old saying is, if you keep going to the barbershop, eventually you'll get a haircut. Don't let that go over your head. So if Florida continues to stay close on some of these blue chip prospects, they're going to eventually land some, just like they did last year with DJ Lagway and LJ McCray. All right, guys, that's the Friday Flex. You got any questions or any type of tips, comments, let me know. Hit me in the comments and make sure, hey, man, go get you one of these 5-star Flex hoodies. That's cool, right? All right, for sure. All right, take care, guys.